Would you get on an airplane with a drunk pilot? Many of us fly through our days on autopilot with no thought of wellness. Join us today for a discussion with Dr. Olga on investigating your chronic stress leading to burnout. Dr. Olga is an integrated medicine physician. She's also an anesthesiologist by training. She studied Western medicine, Chinese, Japanese, and French medicines, and has passion for holistic approach to healing. Hi, welcome to Rekindle XM, where we talk about workplace stress, burnout, and effective ways to recover from ashes of burnout and rekindle our fire. I'm your host, Masha, and today with me is Michelle. Well, today we have a special treat for you. We have a speaker guest, Dr. Olga Afonin, and we're reading a bit from our book of Chapter 4, Investigate Yourself. So here goes. Our bodies are resilient and equipped with everything we need to live abundant, healthy lives. That is, if our mind and bodies are in harmony. In most cases, for healthy individuals, it's not the body's ability to heal, but the failure to notice the departure from homeostasis that knocks us off balance. Such negligence can prompt unhealthy coping mechanisms and opens the door to illness that can spiral our health out of control. Imagine the mind and our mental health being the pilot and the body being the airplane as an analogy to intrapersonal stress. The pilot has a clear understanding of where he is traveling. He reviews the flight plan, weather, and the plane's airworthiness. He performs the pre-flight inspection and clearance before claiming the flight deck. He then engages the flight management system. He can't fly a plane if it has no fuel or if something is wrong with it mechanically. Neither can he fly a plane if the pilot is unfit for duty. And what about the weather? Is it sunny? Mental clarity and contentment? Is it rainy? Anxiety and depression? Is it foggy? Mental fatigue. The airplane has an extensive dashboard with gauges, buttons, and levers. An average Joe wouldn't know what to do with. So does our body. It has many indicators that, if monitored closely, reveal the wellness of the body and whether it's fit for service each day. If our gauges are checked regularly, we are very much in tune with our stressors and monitor when they are moving towards the red zone. But if the gauges are ignored and the body's capacity enters the red zone, the pilot becomes numb and unaware of the alarm signals until something adverse happens. The pilot could be distracted or completely checked out and not fit for duty. But what if the pilot doesn't call in sick and shows up for duty anyway? What if the weather is bad in addition to the unfit pilot? Would you entrust your life to the hands of that pilot? We often fail to check our own dashboards, or we fail to give our bodies the needed inspection and maintenance, such as sunshine, quality breathing, quality sleep, adequate water intake, enough rest, and physical activity, balanced nutrition, and so on. There's a little teaser from our book that is coming out in January and is available on pre-sale in every place where books are sold. Dr. Olga, welcome. Thank you so much for being here with us to talk about our pilots and our dashboards. What a topic. Our goal is really to understand, the physical, mental, and spiritual self-assessment. How do we investigate ourselves? If we suspect something's off, are we in chronic stress? Are we in burnout? What is the magic sauce?
Good morning, everybody. This is a wonderful occasion to speak about very important topics, and I'm very glad that you, ladies and gentlemen, actually picked up this topic, obviously from a personal experience, but also from experience of others around you. Yes, are we fit to take the day and to engage in all the activities of the day? We never ask ourselves. We are hurried up into the action. Just like we were talking before the cameras went on, we are used to be pushed in the situation. We are not looking inside. We're looking outside at the least to do. I bet you all use this kind of list where it says to do today, and it's really long, and it never completed, and it just rolls over to tomorrow. So every night we're going to bed with the idea that tomorrow I will do this, this, and this. Meanwhile, something else builds up on that list. We wake up to the full day of surprises and tasks, which doesn't leave this space for ourselves. And
Dr. Olga, pardon my interruption, but you said something that was so interesting because you talked about how we rarely take time. And I remember when I was working full time for healthcare, but I would time my morning routine to the minute. And it was just boom, 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 do these 10 things, get out the door by this time. And you're right. Before my day even started, there was not 1 minute of self-reflection. It was just, here are the basic tasks I need to do to get myself out the door, to get to work. And I feel like that is the experience of most people, in the US and probably around the world.
Add to that also the problems with the sleep. And if you think about that, most of the people who suffer the insomnia and not able to fall asleep, one of the main reasons is because not everything is done on what was scheduled for today. And then the person goes to the bed with the feeling of guilt and self-worthlessness and not being just able to calm themselves and still planning and still processing the information from the day instead of detaching, reflecting on the day, enjoying what was done, enjoying what was good about the day, and then falling asleep peacefully. That never happens.
So I'm going to bring us back to that analogy of a pilot flying a plane. And what it seems like is that a lot of us are stuck on autopilot and we are stuck in gear. Our gauges are going out of control. We're ignoring them because we're focusing our efforts on the outside. What do I have to do to survive today? And we enter that survival state. So as a practicing physician treating some of the very interesting situations that you've been treating in this world, tell us, why are people coming in? What is it that says, I need to go change my life? I cannot do this any longer.
Well, Masha, this is a really important point. You just bringing us to the end of not being able to control your airplane. And so I was trying to emphasize the importance of us looking actually into our journey as the pilots of our own body and our own life. One hopes that we have some control over it. We need to realize that it's not only the task that we are looking forward to every day when we get up and have every minute, okay, I need to fill up the plane, I need to get in the cockpit, I need to look around, I need to make sure that all the gauge is working and go off. What about you? This is a very good analogy that you brought in your book, specifying that what if the actual pilot is unfit for the flight? And that's when we never take time to actually engage and think about, unless it is something that pushes us to stop and look around. Most of the people who find me are finding me because, doctor, my labs are all normal. My physician thinks I am fine, but I don't feel good, or I feel really bad. That's where we start most of the time. And that's a little too late. There is a lot of work that we need to do from that particular point to restore the person, to get them back into the wellness. So what ideally would be happening is this pilot examines not only the plane and the task, but also him or herself to figure out if they need help. So yes, there are lots of interesting situations when people come finding me, and I need to, notice that I'm not advertising anywhere. So people find me through the friends and families. And that is actually bringing very specific type of the people who actually need help. They don't want to go to the doctors. They're too busy to see doctors. They hate thinking about needing some help because they're overachievers. Most of them are very, very busy and successful people, but they come to me because at some point there is no conventional doctor who can help them.
Dr. Olga, this is really interesting. So I'll tell you a little bit about my personal experience. So back in my early 30s, I was working on my master's degree, and I was collecting all my own data and doing a research project to publish. In the middle of that, I met and married my husband, and we bought a new house. So there was, several things going on at once. I started to have severe stomach pain, went in, and they said, oh, well, you have gastroesophageal reflux disease. Here's your pills. Take these and you should feel better in, maybe a month or two. So that was the first thing that happened. They never asked about, what's that?
I apologize. And you probably did feel better for a little bit.
I did, but no one ever asked about the stress that I was under. And I was working more than full time, working on my master's and new husband, new house. And no one even asked about what was happening in my life. And then I continued to have, other symptoms that came over time, back and neck issues where there was just, chronic nerve pain or numbness going down my arms. No one asked. Later on, I had some gallbladder issues. I suffered with infertility. Not one physician ever asked about that. So it's almost like, we have this dashboard, but somehow most of us as individuals and most of our medical providers are missing what's on the dashboard.
Well, here we come to a little bit bigger problem than ourselves. The medical society, unfortunately, suffers a lot of the same problems. And one of them is the physicians, the regular physicians, are obligated to spend time with the patients for a very short allocated amount of the minutes. And there is no way anybody can possibly understand what's going on with the patients in the short 10 to 20 minutes of the visit. And if a person doesn't really try to get help or understand him or herself as a patient, that something is more than just a stomach pain. Something is more than just a shoulder and the neck pain and the headaches. There is something going on, and it requires deeper look and understanding that just, oh yes, you have gastroesophageal reflux, so here's the pill for you, go home. Okay, we put the check mark, patient is healthy, the symptoms are addressed, and so we are fine. But as you said, nobody asks you about the level of stress in your life. Whereas we all very well trained to recognize the stress in the life, but let's not go into the insurance coverage and everything else. The system is not fit anymore to treat people as the whole. People are treated as a bunch of symptoms or bunch of organ systems, and that might be not well, and this is what needs to be fixed. Oh, you have an infertility. Okay, let's get you these drugs. We don't pay attention that this infertility is coming from the amount of stress that you experience, and that causes the whole hurricane in the hormone system. We are suppressing your symptoms instead of fixing them. And then once you're more or less stabilized, let you go, because we ourselves are too busy taking care of too many people, trying to address too many problems at the same time. If you notice, when you come to the conventional physician office, there is a question. What is the reason you are here today? It's not the list. List everything else that bothers you would probably take 2 pages. But what is the reason, one reason that you came in today, and we can address this particular reason? Very minimum, bare just touch on your problem, go on with your life. So what I'm trying to say is, it is important for the person, the pilot, ourselves as patients, to take our life and control over our health into our hands, and understand that if something new shows up in our body, it's not just the reflux, Where is it coming from? What exactly causing it? Why did it show up at this particular time? Very few people who had problem, say, congenital, and we know that, this child has these particular problems and stuff. Most of us accumulating medical problems during our teenagerhood to adult life. And then we are dealing with it for the rest of our life. So why this problem showed up? That's where we need to come back to us and to look at our dashboard, step back and say, hey, I have these new symptoms, new problem. What is going on? And how is it possible or not possible to fix it? Who do I need to talk to? And it's not necessarily the primary care physician who is overstressed and overburdened. That might be your priest, your friend, your community, your husband, your wife, your children. Sometimes they see much more than, we adults actually notice, and they are very brutally honest. Mom, you're not looking good today. It's like, oh, thank you. All right. What's going on? So let's be more aware of ourselves.
Dr. Olga, I think you called out some very important things. Is we as patients oftentimes think it's our doctor's responsibility to fix us. It's kind of backwards, but that's not the reality of things. We as patients are the pilots of our plane, and we need to get it to destination. It means we have to be accountable for our own bodies. And one thing I wanted to kind of point out and shift into is we cannot do this if we are unaware. If we just have our autopilot hats on and we're just going, we're stuck in gear, we're going way too fast. We're not even paying attention where we're going or how we're going. We just need to get there, right? Because, the season is just pressing on us and it's just like squeezing on us. And busyness is the norm, really. But here's an interesting fact also out of our book and the introduction that was so well put together by Brian, who is not here with us today, is a staggering 89% of workers experienced feelings of burnout in 2022. Burnout also increases at a rate of 13.5% from 2021. On top of this, 70% of U.S. employees feel that they are not receiving sufficient support from their employers to help to prevent burnout. Look at these numbers. 89% of workers are in burnout. So in this section in Investigate, many people are not acquainted with the term burnout, right? So we are shifting into using more of a word chronic stress. So how do we nudge people to recognize their chronic stress? What are, I come home and what are the things I'm looking for that could tell me, Masha, you need to do something before, little alarm bells in the head. You got to do something before something else happens.
Well, that is a really good question, and I want to bring your attention to I believe it's chapter 5 in your book. I really like how you put it in the very short but interesting phrase. Investigate your environment. Okay? Let's return back to the situation when we say there is a new problem shows up, and it's not necessarily a medical problem. It could be emotional situation. Say, I always enjoyed conversation with my, say, coworker, but recently I just can't stand her. I can't see her. I can't be at my desk. I cannot just force myself to get up in the morning because I know I need to go to work. Horrible feelings. Do we pay attention to that? No. We just go through the feelings and break through and just get in the car and go and do our best to work. Though I can guarantee you we didn't do the job as well as we would have when we enjoy actually doing this work. This is already a big call, like step back and figure out what's going on. Why is it the work environment is not pleasant anymore? Why are you so stressed and why you force yourself to go to work? That's about work. There is a lot of stress also in other environments that we are included. Social life. Oh, I used to go out and I was just fine and I enjoyed, my getting together with my friends. I can't seem to find energy to go and do it anymore. Okay, stop. That's a big ring. It's a red light flashing right there. Family. I can't take it. I have to drag my children there and I need to go there and the cooking is like horrible task and the dog is, somewhere between the legs and this is too much. Let me just sit down and don't talk to me. Have we experienced that? All the time, Or when we come and just plump ourselves in front of a TV because the social, family, work environment, all the activities, all the load of information and burden of the other people's issues are on ourselves and we just plump in front of a TV, just, zoom out into the some stupid show and for a few minutes just turn ourselves off completely. This is another red light flashing and stuff. Many women say, my husband comes home, he's just watching TV, he never helps me. That builds up a the negative feelings towards the husband. Okay, why is that happening? We don't have time to stop and ask those questions. And those are critical questions. And that's when we start to experience this kind of things, we need to understand something is not right. It's not normal to be in stress. It's not normal to be in chronic stress or constant stress. So when we feel that we're stressed, we need to find help. We need to talk to ourselves first as to what's going on, and then try to examine our environment and write a little diary, like I'm stressed today because of this. And examine your diary later on and say, oh, I've been stressed because of this Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and so on. Maybe something needs to be changed about this.
Wow, what a wealth of information. Thank you, Dr. Olga. Michelle, you're going to...
Yeah, I was just I was going to comment that is often how we experience it. And we often don't make the connection that what we're experiencing is stress. So thank you for making that connection with those feelings and very common situations that almost all of us encounter.
Yeah, and
I hope that...
Oh, God.
Go ahead, Masha.
I think another important thing to pay attention to, I really love that you said, pay attention, slow down, pay attention. Just even if it's within a breath, you can reconnect your mind and your body and check up on the well-being of the pilot. But what I'm beginning to wonder is that, unrecognized burnout is what really burnout is. Until it hits you, you're not going to really do anything about it, right? Because you have so much going on and you have the superhero syndrome and you can keep going and get things done. One thing I'm thinking of before I crashed with my third burnout, wondering what would it take a person like me before, I crashed to realize, oh, something's about to happen. Well, here's the thing. I knew in my gut something's off. Instead of having one cup of coffee, I now have 6. Yes, I have had a season where I have 6 cups of coffee. And I'm not going to say when, Dr. Olga. I'll get in trouble there. But that was a big indicator for me. I lost ability to sleep, so I was medicating to stay asleep and fall asleep. And then in the mornings, I couldn't get going. And it was a real effort. It was like one of those, you wake up with an illness and you just cannot get going. You do not have the reserves to keep pushing. But you get going, you start with a cup of coffee, of course, on an empty stomach because you have no time because you're running to work, because you have kids you have to drop off at school before you actually get to work and you may be late. You have no time for yourself. I mean, come on, who takes care of themselves? Take care of them, of our kids and everybody else first before we even consider taking your own breath, let alone draw a bath. But looking at those coping methods, okay, well, what is your numbing preference? What is your checkout preference? Are you just flopping on a couch and binge watching Netflix, or are you beginning to, need help and support, and you're turning to, conventional medicine? I like to call it vending machine medicine. You have a headache, you go to a shelf, you pick up a pill, you take that, and you're good, right? Well, why did you have that headache? Why do you have that backache? Beginning to ask those questions when you do reach for a conventional solution, I think what would have been a wake-up call. To me, it was, I'm taking too many pills, and I'm in my 30s. What is wrong? That I'm healthy, but I'm taking all these pills. Why? And it comes to a point where I don't want to take the pills because I don't know what is wrong. Nobody actually told me what is wrong, and I'm taking these pills. So by the time you get to that point, it's just really confusing because you're right. Physicians, your primary care physician doesn't have time for you to properly assess you, let alone tell you you're in burnout, because most likely they're in burnout themselves and they don't recognize it, let alone know how to treat it. So we have physicians like Dr. Olga coming on air telling us to pause, take a breath, smell the flowers for a second, check in with your self. Where are you? Are you even present, or you're in the past, or are you somewhere in the future? Like, how do we connect those dots and really be present and constantly self-assess? And I think investigate portion of our book really talks about, okay, let's investigate ourselves. It's going to take a while. It's not going to be you read the chapter and you're done, right? It's taken you years to get through chronic stress to this point in time. So what are you going to do, and how are you going to do it is very important. And it's going to be the determining factor whether you're going to stay in burnout or start recovering from burnout. It's the time you invest into the self-assessments. And from my experience, self-assessment doesn't just start and end. It's ongoing. We have to self-assess every single day. We have to tune in to those stressors every single day. Like you mentioned, family. Whew, those seasons come and you just, what rock can I hide into to weather the storm because I did not want to be part of this, right? Sometimes we just inherit some of the family matters we have to deal with, unfortunately, because they are family. But it's not what's happening to you. It's only 10% of life is what's happening to you. It's 90% of life. How do you react to it? And teaching yourselves to do it in a way that promotes the self-wellness and self-awareness, I think, is essential to being healthy, because eventually, you're going to spend your money on your time on your illness versus spending the time and money that you like on your wellness.
Those are really good ideas and thoughts that you brought up, Masha, and thank you for sharing your personal experience because it is invaluable. And I'm not surprised, actually, knowing you enough to see that you went through 3 burnouts, but at least you learned your lesson, right? To recognize when you get into burnout and do something before you get to the full burnout. And you're right, we need to recognize, but how do we recognize when we're getting there? And that's a big problem because we're young, we're strong, we can do it, we push ourselves, we never slow down. Slow down is for weaklings, and pills are for the sickligs, and we are not that. We are people who are doers and achievers, and we can go through anything. This is instilled in us from very, very young age. We need to understand that not always we are in the best of our shapes. Yes, our body is amazing. Like really, God created something absolutely wonderful. with so many steps of the protection and self-rejuvenation and self-reconstruction and healing powers. But we burn through everything. And, yes, we get sick once in a while. We can get like a regular flu, or we might get something else. What's happening in the body is this multiple systems of protection are burned through. Just a simple flu or, some kind of cold is already indicator that your immune system is not in perfect shape. This is already enough for us to stop and look at the body and look at ourselves and examine what's going on. And it is not uncommon for us to take this seasonal flu as a normal in our life. But there are people don't get sick with the flu, colds, and all the seasonal unwellness. And we shouldn't, actually. Our body are quite capable to protect us and fight the infection off. If it gave in the intruder, that means the body needs help. Right there, right then, we need to look at ourselves, examine our lifestyle, and see what is missing. Most of the time, what I see is people overburdened by either school or work or taking care of others, either it's animals or children or elderly relatives or anybody else you are taking care of. This is a big stress. Or people just combine too many activities. Busy school, busy lifestyle, going out at nights or something like that. And I don't mean necessarily school, but it could be work. Busy social life could also be very taxing. And then add to that an extensive exercises that stress our system, but it's so popular among the young people to over-exercise to build up all of that presence of the muscly figure. And on the top of it is emotional burden of whatever. Something needs to give. And unfortunately, the body gives. So step back, try to figure out where you're overdoing. And sometimes it's not easy to figure out because we are not taught to put the things in the perspective. What is really important for our life? And what can we give up or delegate to others? We are not taught to reconnect with the internal ourselves. We're not taught to reach out and say, I need help. I'm not feeling right. Or, my spiritual or my emotional life is just out of order. Somebody help. And that somebody is who? Most common people go to their peers and their friends, and it's like blind leading blind. I don't know what's going with me, but I'll give you good advice. And that's where something like your book and your podcast will be very, very important in helping the most of us to understand, whoever listens to us today, to understand, no, we're not superheroes. We're already doing much more than we potentially can. Think about lifestyle, say, 100 years ago, when the speed of the moving from one place to another was speed of one horse running. And the amount of the things that we could squeeze in a day would never fit a computer, a super fast internet, endless phone calls, endless connection. This thing is with me 24/7. I actually learn how to turn it off periodically. But I bet you everybody else is attached and on the hook of some rather either informational or physical burden all the time. So it's not a surprise that our bodies just cannot take that much. It just has to give. In fact, there are multiple really good studies that show the prevalence of not only burnout but depression in our society is huge. And if you think about it, this is the way for our body to say stop. Just stop. I can't do it anymore. If you didn't get to the point of stopping before, stop now. I will stop you because I can't live anymore like that. That's what bodies say. So once again, let's return back to what kind of indicators, how we not get in the burnout. We're not taught to live normal life. We're not taught to stop, have weekend to ourselves, to go outside and hug the tree, for example, or go and meet with the spiritual friends and have a good prayer, or go for a little hiking alone so you can think and process all of that information that accumulated in your head, in your soul over the course of the last few days. Yes, we all will experience a huge amount of stress when something happens sudden. Somebody got sick, or somebody got injured, or we personally have experience of being attacked under, during the work stress or during the car accident or something like that. That is a call to also stop. But most of us are pushing ourselves to the limit in everyday life. That should be pleasure. It shouldn't be the stress. So if you are stressed in the everyday life, please stop. Find a couple of hours. Go away. Detach from everything you do. And try to figure out what stresses you, why you're stressed, and how you can deal with it so that you're not stressed but actually enjoy your life.
Excellent advice, Dr. Olga. Thank you so much for bringing our attention to things that matter and to things that actually spark those questions and those conversations between you and your patients. I've learned myself that I have to physically unplug from my physical environment, which is my home space, my community, my workspace, and I have to replan somewhere else for a short period of time until I do recharge those batteries. And that only became possible once I gave myself permission to. That's all it took, because I was stuck in that rat race. I can't take time off. Why? It's called PTO. You can take time off. It's yours to take. We need to retrain our bodies and our minds to say, okay, I'm going to unplug, for a couple of days here, for a week here, and maybe a little bit longer in a year or two. You have something to look forward to, those larger breaks. But in the meantime, you have to have little breaks daily, just to make a space for yourself to reconnect your pilot to your airplane. It doesn't take long. It takes 3 breaths. And Dr. Olga, would you teach us the 3 breaths?
Well, one of my favorite deep breathing exercise that I ask all of my friends and all of my patients to do is called 4, 7, 8. And 3 breaths, deep breaths easily could be done anywhere, in any situation, as soon as you remember that we are not taking the deep breath, which is the fact. When we're stressed, we're just breathing shallow, and our breathing is actually very, very important. So those 3 deep breaths that we can take anywhere and any time will reconnect all our organs and all our systems, teaching them to relax. So 4, 7, 8. You can choose your own count. It could be 1, 2, 3, 4, or it could be 1, 2, 3, 4. It could be 1, 2, and so on. So you take a breath in through the slightly open mouth on the count of 4. Then you hold it on the count of 7. And then you exhale through the nose, slowly concentrating on letting it go on the count of 8. Did I get enough fingers there?
Excellent.
Just 3 of those breaths will make a huge difference in the amount of stress that you experience during the day. So that's just easy and helpful.
Well, thank you, Dr. Olga, for helping us cover the investigate portion of the segment today.